The Bible is full of epic stories. Tales of bravery, miracles, and divine intervention fill its pages. Yet, some of the most significant moments belong not to the giants of faith, but to the seemingly ordinary individuals who answered God's call. One such individual is Ananias of Damascus. His name might not be as familiar as Moses, David, or Paul, but his role in the early church was nothing short of pivotal. Ananias enters the narrative at a crucial juncture. Saul of Tarsus, a notorious persecutor of Christians, has just had a life-altering encounter with Jesus on the road to Damascus. Blinded by the light of Christ, Saul is left humbled and shaken. He is ripe for transformation, but who will God choose to guide him? Enter Ananias. Ananias is an unassuming disciple, a seemingly ordinary believer living in Damascus. He is not a prominent apostle or a charismatic leader, yet God chooses him, an ordinary man, to play a key role in the extraordinary story of Saul's conversion. Ananias' story reminds us that God often uses ordinary people to accomplish extraordinary things. It's a powerful reminder that each of us has a part to play in God's story, no matter how small or insignificant we may feel. His story is a testament to the power of obedience and the incredible impact that a single act of faith can have. Even more, it highlights that God sees us, knows our hearts, and equips us to do what He calls us to do even when it seems impossible. The book of Acts chapter 9 describes how God appeared to Ananias in a vision. "Ananias," the Lord called. Ananias responded, "Yes, Lord, I am here." God had a specific task for Ananias. He was to go to the house of Judas on Straight Street and find Saul of Tarsus. This was no ordinary request. Saul was a feared persecutor of Christians. His name struck terror in the hearts of believers. Ananias would have known about Saul's reputation. He likely knew people who had suffered at Saul's hands. God's command seemed dangerous, even illogical. Why would God send him, a simple follower of Jesus, to meet with this dangerous man? It seemed like a mission destined for disaster. Despite the fear that must have been welling up inside him, Ananias didn't immediately dismiss the Lord's call. He listened. He was willing to hear what God had to say, even if it frightened him. Ananias, though a man of faith, was also human. The thought of facing Saul filled him with apprehension. He knew the danger, the risk involved in approaching such a man. "Lord," Ananias responded, "I have heard many reports about this man and all the harm he has done to your holy people in Jerusalem. And he has come here with authority from the chief priests to arrest all who call on your name." Ananias' words weren't defiant. They were a sincere expression of his fear and concern. Imagine being in Ananias' position. Wouldn't you hesitate too? To confront a man known for his ruthlessness and hostility towards your faith would take immense courage. Ananias' fear was real. He wasn't afraid to voice his concerns to God. This wasn't disobedience, it was honest wrestling with a difficult situation. God didn't rebuke Ananias for his fear. Instead, He reassured him. This is a powerful reminder that God understands our fears and doesn't expect us to be fearless robots. He welcomes our honesty and meets us in our moments of doubt and uncertainty. Section 4. An act of courage, Ananias obeys. Despite his fear, Ananias chose to obey. He placed his trust in God's promise and went to find Saul. He entered the house on Straight Street, approached the very man who instilled fear in the hearts of many, and said, "Brother Saul, the Lord Jesus, who appeared to you on the road as you were coming here, He has sent me so that you may see again and be filled with the Holy Spirit." What an incredible act of courage. Ananias could have easily walked away, justifying his decision with the very real threat that Saul posed. But he chose to trust God's plan over his own understanding. Ananias' obedience paved the way for one of the most remarkable transformations in history. As Ananias laid his hands on Saul, something miraculous happened. Something that would change the course of Christian history. Section 5. A legacy of faithfulness. The impact of Ananias' obedience. The moment Ananias laid his hands on Saul, scales fell from Saul's eyes, and his sight was restored. More importantly, Saul was filled with the Holy Spirit and was baptized. The persecutor became the evangelist, the hunter, the hunted. Saul, later known as the Apostle Paul, went on to become one of the most influential figures in the early Christian church. Paul's missionary journeys, his letters, his tireless work to share the gospel, all these stemmed from that pivotal moment when a simple disciple named Ananias answered God's call. Ananias might have faded into the background of the biblical narrative after this event. We don't hear about any other grand miracles he performed or any other significant roles he played, but his legacy lived on, woven into the very fabric of the Christian faith, through the apostle he helped set on a new path. Ananias' story is a powerful reminder that none of us can fully grasp the ripple effect of our obedience. Section 6. Everyday Heroes Embracing Our Own Calls. Ananias' story holds profound lessons for us today. We may never be called to confront a persecutor of the church or heal someone miraculously, but we are all called to live lives of obedience and faith. Every day we face situations that challenge us to step outside of our comfort zones, to confront our fears and trust God's leading. It might be reaching out to a neighbor in need, speaking up against injustice, or simply being a source of encouragement to someone who's struggling. It might not seem like much, but like Ananias' simple act of obedience, our seemingly small acts of faith can have a ripple effect we may never fully comprehend. We are all called to be everyday heroes, to answer the call to love God and love others, even when it's hard, even when it's uncomfortable, and even when it seems impossible. Section 7. Small Acts, Big Impact, Answering the Call to Faithfulness. In a world that often glorifies the extraordinary, it's easy to underestimate the power of the seemingly ordinary. But as Ananias' story so powerfully illustrates, God often uses ordinary people to do extraordinary things. We may never know the full impact of our obedience, but we can be certain that when we answer God's call, even in the smallest of ways, we become part of something much bigger than ourselves. Like Ananias, we are invited to embrace the adventure of faith, to step out in courage, and to trust that God can use even our smallest acts of obedience to accomplish His grand and glorious purposes. May we be a generation that responds with a resounding "Yes, Lord," to His call, no matter how challenging or impossible it may seem. For in our yes we open the door for God to do immeasurably more than we could ever ask or imagine. If this message encouraged you, share with someone who needs to hear this truth today.